Hey YouTube, welcome back to Dwayne's World. So in today's video, we are doing an unboxing and a review, but nope, it's not on a lawnmower. You want to find out what I'll be working with? You better stay tuned. Alright, so before we get into the unboxing and review of the featured item here on Dwayne's World today, I want to give you guys a quick update here on the back lawn. For those of you that are new to my channel, what you're looking at is about 7,000 square feet of hybrid Bermuda. Tifway 419 is the variety, I believe. And what you're also going to be noticing, as I kind of zoom in a little closer here, is there's a lot of dead thatch that has risen to the surface because of all the rain we've been getting here in Southern California. Now, what I'm going to do, which is what I like to do, is whenever I have this problem, and it's not very often, I'll go ahead and break out the rotary mower to clean up all this dead thatch, so that way it's removed from the lawn. This is where I'm such a big fan of the rotary mower. You know, I always tell people, even if you're upgrading to a real mower, do not get rid of your rotary mower. There's going to be a lot of times where you're going to want to use it for cleanup work. And this is another example of where it's really going to come in handy for me to be able to clean up my lawn, so that way we can get ready for that final scalp. All right, and with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the featured product for today. All right, so this is the product I'll be featuring here on Dwayne's World today. It's a Saker Mini Electric Chainsaw. Now, it's a 4-inch mini chainsaw that does include a 20-volt lithium-ion battery. Full disclosure on this particular chainsaw, I did not purchase this. This was actually sent to me as a sample from the manufacturer or a representative thereof. And when they reached out to me, you know, I was really debating on whether or not to do a review or not of this particular chainsaw, but it made a lot of sense. And the reason why it made a lot of sense to me was because of the fact that I do have quite a bit of bushes, trees on my property that absolutely always need tending to and pruning. And I felt that this was absolutely something I can use in my arsenal to really help maintain my landscape. So hopefully with my review today and unboxing, this will help you guys decide whether or not this is the right chainsaw for you and whether it matches your application. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and do an unboxing and show you guys what's included when you purchase one of these mini electric chainsaws. All right, so now that I go ahead and got the box open here, I want to show you guys the contents of it and what you'll be getting when you purchase one of these chainsaws. Now, I did charge the battery. It's a 20-volt, 1.5 amp hour battery. It has an AC adapter that plugs into the top of the battery here for you to be able to charge it. So let me go ahead and set that out. And again, there's the charger for the battery. It will also include a couple tools that you might need for assembly. Looks like we have a Phillips head screwdriver and the actual chainsaw itself. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. As you guys can see there, looks really nice, looks stable. Everything for the most part always looks installed, to be honest with you. So I got to say it has good weight to it, which I'm very happy to see. I'm going to go ahead and set that to the side here. Let's see what else we got here in the box. Looks like we got an instruction manual, as I would anticipate, and how to use it. Okay. All right, so the last couple things out of the box here is we got a little bottle of oil here, which I know we're going to need in order to lubricate the chain. And it looks like we have a little tool here for us to be able to get the nut off or the actual bar on the chainsaw. So now that I got everything out of the box here, I just laid it out on the table just so you guys can see everything again. Again, we have a Phillips head screwdriver along with the wrench here to be able to remove the bar. We have our battery charger, some lubricant, which I'm sure we're going to need for the actual chain, the actual chainsaw itself, and a manual. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the things that I want to be able to trim today and be able to take care of. All right, so one of the things I really want to stress today before I start using the Saker Mini Electric Chainsaw is the proper use of PPE. You really want to make sure you're wearing your safety glasses, you're wearing gloves, you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, you're wearing pants, not shorts, you're wearing shoes, not sandals. All these things are designed to keep yourself safe. Trust me when I say the last thing you want to do is hurt yourself with a chainsaw, because it won't be pretty. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and lubricate the chainsaw here. I try to do this left-handed. I'm not very good, but all you want to do is you want to be able to, you know, go ahead and put some of this oil here on your chainsaw. Now, for those of you that are worried about what type of oil you need, don't worry, because all you really need is some vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is actually recommended, especially if you're dealing with fruit trees, because if you use anything but, like mineral oil, for example, it may harm the tree. So now that I got some oil on there, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little spin there and we should be good to go. All right, so this is kind of project number 1 here. I need to remove this shrub that has actually died now because of some chlorinated water that actually got into this flower bed. All right, so at the end of the growing season last year, my son had an above ground swimming pool that we needed to empty, and unfortunately a lot of that chlorinated water got into this flower bed. And so with that, it ultimately killed this shrub. So what I need to do is I need to cut down some of these branches here so I can go ahead and remove it. And I think the mini chainsaw is absolutely gonna fit this application. As you guys can see here, as I get closer in, these branches and whatnot, I mean, I could probably break those off fairly easily, even with a pair of pruning shears. But as I get down into the actual plant itself, we got some pretty thick branches here, and that's going to be a little bit more difficult to cut with some pruning shears. And this is where a chainsaw, especially a mini chainsaw, is really going to come in for me to be able to take care of breaking this down so I could properly dispose of it. All right, so now that I got my chainsaw in hand here, one thing that I'll point out is I am not an arborist, okay? So for any of you guys that are professional, if I'm doing it wrong, I'm sorry. You can comment down below. I'll make sure I do it right the next time. But at the same time, hopefully, this helps somebody out if they're looking at one of these chainsaws and where I think it's really going to come in handy. So with that, let's go ahead and trim off some of these branches. There we go, as you can see there. Cut off a big chunk there. All right, so one thing you probably want to do is you do want to hold the branch on the other side. I think it'll help kind of brace it. Makes it a little bit easier to cut through. All right, so now as you guys can see here, we're kind of getting down to it. Go ahead and start taking off some of these bigger pieces here, which is really why I wanted the chainsaw more than anything else. All right, as you guys can see there, it absolutely did its job. That's really what I wanted. Not too bad there. Again, that's pretty thick, so definitely is doing its job. All right, so now that we're getting down towards the stump, this looks like it's already broken off, so I'm not gonna need that. And it's coming out of the ground here. Go ahead and leave this branch, and the only reason is so I can use it as leverage. If I cut this off, it's gonna be hard to get it out. No, there we go. As you guys can see there, I got out the root, or a lot of it. So I think we are pretty good to go. A little bit more of it there. Before I clean this up, let's go ahead and move on to our next project. All right, so the next thing here is a peach tree that I'm gonna go ahead and prune up a little bit. As you guys can see, it's starting to bloom. I'll go ahead and zoom in for a closer shot here, just so you guys can see. All right, so as I zoom in here and kind of give you guys a little bit better shot, as you can see, there's a lot of blooming that's going on in this tree here. And ultimately, each one of these little blooms potentially can turn into a peach. Absolutely love it. Gonna have quite a bit of peaches this year. For those of you guys that are a fan of peaches, give me a thumbs up, because we'll definitely be having a lot of fruit from the way this tree is starting off this growing season. But what I like to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim off a few of the branches, especially the ones that are growing in a downward direction. I'm going to thin it out just a little bit, so that way the fruit that's going to come through here will have a much better chance of surviving. And with that, let's go ahead and start cutting. Things I should have mentioned earlier, when you're using this chainsaw, if you notice, this is the trigger here that actually spins the chainsaw. However, it's not spinning because you have to first engage the safety button here on the side. And once you do that, it's good to go. Right. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by cutting this one here. Hopefully it's coming through on the camera. The only reason I'm choosing this one here is because, again, it is growing in a downward direction, and I don't want that branch there. All right, so we got that. Same thing with this one right here. Go ahead and cut that. I'm gonna probably go ahead and take off this whole branch here. I think that would probably be beneficial to the tree. All right. So kind of the same thing with when it comes to this side right here. I'm gonna go ahead and just trim off this portion here. Probably go ahead and take this side too. All right. Now this looks like it was just something that was older from before. We'll go ahead and remove that. It doesn't look like anything's gonna come out of there. Be able to do a little bit of a cleanup. Branches I actually need to remove, even though there's quite a bit of fruit that would possibly bear from it, is this one branch right here. And the reason why I'm looking to remove that one is just because it's overhanging quite a bit here. And this is going to bring a lot of weight down on this side of the tree, and I'd rather balance it out a little bit better. Got to go ahead and just trim it up here. That's good to go there. See here, it gives the tree a little bit of a better shape by breaking off that one branch. I'm going to come around to the back side here. I'm going to go ahead and also remove this one here, just because it is growing kind of in a downward direction. That'll kind of help the tree out. We'll go ahead and just cut this off here. Things I'll probably going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and remove this branch here. That's good. In order to remove some of the taller branches there that kind of going upwards, I'm going to have to get either a ladder or a pole chainsaw to do those. So this is where I really like this tool, to be able to handle some of the lower hanging branches to really kind of just help prune up the tree. And as you guys can see there, just that little bit, I think absolutely made a difference. It gives it a much better shape. You know, this tree had a pretty hard life, as you guys can see there near the base. It definitely did break off at a certain point. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of bring it back to a little bit more of a center. That's why I wanted to remove some of the branches that I did. That way the tree does not topple over just because of the fact that it is growing in a sideward direction. All right, so this shrub here has also caused me some problems. You know, something that was living about 50% of the time last year, but I think ultimately it's now dead. So what I'm going to do is kind of similar to the other bush. I'm going to go ahead and just chop it into smaller pieces, and then that way we can go ahead and remove it and then be able to plant something else here that will do a little bit better. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start at the base here and kind of give that a little chop. There we go. Kind of make a little bit more room. The only thing you do want to be a little bit careful of is some of these flimsier branches. When you try to go ahead and hold the chainsaw to it, you will get a lot of vibration just because it's not a very stable branch. You want to absolutely keep that in mind as you're using this chainsaw, so that way you keep yourself safe. Again, not really looking to be pretty with it, just because of the fact that it's all just dead branches here. Now, the one thing I will say is a lot of times people believe that a dead tree, you know, should be easier for a chainsaw to cut. It's actually the other way around. You know, whenever you have dead plants, they're very dry, and it actually is very hard on your chainsaw and your equipment. So just keep that in mind anytime you're cutting into a dead tree, is that because of the fact that there's no moisture in the wood, it absolutely can do a lot more damage or wear on your actual chainsaw blades. All right, so now let's get a little bit closer to the root here. Let's get a little bit closer to the bottom here. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this here. One there. As you guys can see there, we're getting pretty thick into the actual bottom branch here. That's what I really love about this size chainsaw, is it really can get into some of those nooks and crannies to be able to cut down some of these branches. Right. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good right there, as you guys can see. Definitely got out of most of it. So what I'll probably have to do now is just grab a shovel and be able to get out the rest of the root. But at the same time, it absolutely does a number on this stuff. All right, so as you guys can see here, this is the first shrub I took out. I'm gonna do a side-by-side comparison of you guys seeing what it looked like dead compared to what it looks like now. Obviously the flower bed is now empty. We'll plant something else here. It's so much better without a dead shrub. You know, sometimes when you have those dead shrubs or dead trees in your yard, they really turn into eyesores. Even in this particular case, I'd much rather have nothing than have a dead shrub. But we'll plant something here eventually. I'll keep you guys updated on what we choose to go with. But at the same time, very happy with how the Mini Saker Chainsaw performed getting rid of this bush. All right, so as you guys can see here, the peach tree definitely looks a lot better than it previously did. Now, I won't say that it's a dramatic difference. I'll go ahead and put up a before and after for you guys to kind of see here. All right, so as you guys can see there wasn't a huge dramatic difference between the before and after, but absolutely a place for the Saker Mini Chainsaw to help me prune off a couple of those branches that I needed gone. Now let me take you over to the last shrub here that we definitely got rid of. So as you guys can see here, all that's left here is the little stump there. Now I could have probably taken it down a little bit further, but I'm going to go ahead and just dig out the rest of this root here with the shovel. But just like in the first shrub, it absolutely looks so much better without a dead shrub here versus having one that's really an eyesore. So kind of like what I'm going to do on the other side, I'll go ahead and plant a new shrub here, and I think we'll be in good shape for this upcoming spring. All right, so what is my review of the Saker Chainsaw? Well, I did link the website in my description below here, so you guys can take a look at the different kits that they offer through Saker. The one thing I will say is that the kit that they sent me isn't necessarily the one I would have purchased had I purchased this chainsaw. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I did not purchase this chainsaw. I'm not paid to give my opinion about this chainsaw. They just sent it to me for me to try and to be able to put a video out for you guys to be able to decide whether or not you believe it's the right chainsaw for you. Now, the one thing I will say is when looking at it, the one that they sent me, I think had a value of $89.99. The one I would have went with is the one that's a one notch higher than that, that comes with 2 batteries. Now, you may be wondering, well, Dwayne, why do you want 2 batteries? You know, if you're not going to use this tool for hours on end, is it really necessary? And maybe it's not. The manufacturer claims that 1 battery will last up to 4 hours, but the key word is up to, right? So meaning it depends on the application at that time. And I find that if you have a double battery, meaning one that's ready to go while you're using one, you'll absolutely always be able to get through your projects. Think about all of your drills or your other power equipment. Whenever you have 2 batteries, a lot of times you do have to swap them out for you to be able to finish your project. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to finish because the 1 battery is dead. So with that being said, I would purchase the one that goes for $109 because that works out better. The other kit that caught my eye is actually a kit where they sell 2 chainsaws that are included in that one kit. Now that might be perfect for somebody that maybe has more than 1 property, or maybe a vacation home, or maybe wants to give one away as a gift. So if that's the right thing for you, you may want to take a look at that one. All right, so the other thing I'll look at when it comes to recommending a product, whether it's a chainsaw or anything, is how easy it is to use. And I would say this chainsaw was pretty easy. It didn't get much easier than using this particular tool. It felt very much like I was using a drill. If you think about it, when you need a drill, you just grab it, you grab your battery, you're good to go. You know, a lot of times I may need to get my chainsaw out and I dread it because of the fact that I got to add bar oil. I got to make sure the tension is right, you know, and I may only be cutting off a branch or 2, but it's too thick for me to use a pair of pruning shears. So therefore I have to use a chainsaw. This is where that chainsaw is really going to come into play, and I can use it to just take care of those quick jobs when it comes to some of the branches I just need to trim off, or in the case of maybe a smaller application like in the shrubs that I had, it worked out perfectly. Now the other thing I have to take into consideration on whether or not I recommend the product is somebody buying the product for the right application. Meaning if somebody came to me and said, Dwayne, you know what, I got a couple of 30-foot trees in my backyard I got to cut down to get rid of because they died, can you recommend a chainsaw for me? I don't know if I'd recommend this one. Now, if they wanted to buy another one and this one, then yeah, absolutely, because I think there's going to be times when you're actually pruning, this is going to be easier to use during that moment. However, if it's only going to be one chainsaw, I don't know if I can go with the one. So that is a huge thing to take into consideration whenever you're purchasing any chainsaw, is whether or not it's right for your application. But in the case of how I used it today, it was absolutely the right application, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody that is doing the type of work I was doing today. So the last factor I would look into is durability and how well it's made. Now, I'll be honest, I've only used this tool the one time, and I can't speak to having this tool for years on end, so I don't know how long it's going to last. But I will say is I don't have any reason to believe that it wouldn't last for as long as I think it should. Now, with that being said, I will say the manufacturer does have a 30-day guarantee on whether or not you like the product or not. So if you do not like it, you can send it back. But I believe first impressions are very important. Meaning when I was working with this tool, I never felt like it was cheaply made, or it wasn't going to last, or it was going to break, which I felt with some other tools that I've used in the past. And I did not feel that way today. All right, so the only thing I would say that's a negative, if you want to call it a negative, is I wish the actual chainsaw did come with a little carrying case or a little storage box for me to be able to stow away in my garage. That's the only negative I would say that I could find with this tool so far. All those things being said, I would absolutely recommend the Saker Chainsaw if you're looking for a mini chainsaw and it's right for your application. All right, so with that, I just want to end by saying thank you to the people over at Saker for allowing me to test out their product and feature it here on Dwayne's World. Absolutely enjoyed it. Was able to clean up some things in my yard that I've been needing to do. This tool made it that much easier and enjoyable, which I think is the key to having an awesome lawn, is you have to enjoy what you're doing. And with that, be excellent and party on.